How's it going, guys? So if you're listening to this right now, more than likely that you are more than just slightly dedicated to the path of knowledge, and you've come to a point to where you are ready to find out what's really going on with the world, who you really are, who the people around us really are. I personally have completely dedicated my entire self and being to learning, channeling, and spreading this information, because it's incredibly detrimental right now at this point in time where we are in the world. And any true seeker of this knowledge will eventually realize that what we're doing is making our way back to the truth of ourselves, because we've been lied to entirely about who we are, about what we're doing here, about how we got here. And it's up to us now, ourselves, in order to figure out what's going on, because there's rarely a place that you will look besides inside of yourself in this world where you're going to find information that's not biased and hasn't been snuffed out and twisted up for someone else's agenda that's entirely against our own, whatever that may be. So in order for this to happen, we have to take things into our own hands, quite literally. And it's very individualized for each person, although it all meets together at the end in unity. And being spiritual beings who are moving into a higher vibratory frequency, there's going to be natural things that happen to us without us even having to try, that will change the way we think and the way that we see everything in the world and the way that we feel about our own selves as who we are as spirits. Some things will happen naturally, but the problem is, if you don't have any kind of knowledge prior to that, when these things start to happen to you, you might just think you're going crazy, or you might just be completely confused and think that something's wrong. And then that'll make you scared of what's happening, when in fact you should be very excited about it. And keep in mind that just because something is uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's bad. If something makes you face yourself and you don't quite like it, then remember it's only a reflection of yourself. And the only way to unprogram ourselves from all the bullshit we've been fed our whole entire lives, and so have our parents and their parents, is to literally unprogram our minds and change our patterns of thinking. And it takes place at a genetic level. And it's up to us, in order to feed our subconscious certain information, in order to do its thing in the astral and the etheric plane and the subconscious. These natural things that happen to us, yeah, they can occur naturally and you might not know what's happening, but if you do know that these things are happening to the entire population, and you know that you're going to be operating at a different vibration, then there's things that you can do to, one, adjust yourself to the ones that are naturally coming, but also to upgrade your own DNA and to be able to open yourself up to your extrasensory perception of any kind. And once we start actively taking these steps, you'll realize that there's a system in this life, the nature, not their system, but the real system. You realize that once you start seeking the truth, and you make an effort, truthfully, in order to seek out what you actually are and what you actually are partaking in, that it'll start to answer you with things like synchronicity. So one of the main things that we can do as people who are trying to get in touch with the spiritual is to follow the synchronicity, because there's no such thing as a coincidence, not even a single one. We just sometimes fail to see it because we stop looking, because the system that we've been put in is entirely false, and it's full of stress and negativity, and we don't even have a chance to think about anything that matters to anything, because we're just focused on trying to put food on the fucking table and have our basic human needs by busting our asses for somebody else who doesn't give a fuck about us. So when you see these synchronicities, then know that it's your higher self, and it's whatever you might think of as God expressing itself to you and telling you where to look. So follow the synchronicity, study it. What's synchronized, what was happening whenever you saw this, what was on your mind, does it relate to something that you're going through, and then research it. We have a whole world of information at our hands. You'd be amazed the things that you can find on the internet that are absolute truth, that would change the entire world if people knew it. And you can find it right on the internet, and they don't care, because they know that they've programmed their sheep deep enough to where they're not going to believe it, and they'll laugh at you if you tell if you go telling someone about it. That's how deep that we've been programmed, is that most of the people will literally show you hatred if you try to tell them something that's truthful, because inside they're scared to realize that they were wrong about something. And that's actually the very first step of the process in general, is that you have to take a step back and realize that there is a problem. And if you haven't realized that yet, then maybe you are the problem. But the first step is taking a step back, realizing that there's a problem, that something's wrong, and that you have been very limited to what you can understand about yourself and what you can understand about the way that things work beyond just this illusionary go to work every day, come home, do your best to scrape by type of reality that we're in now. And one thing to remember is that we've lived lifetime after lifetime, some of us more than others, of being completely tricked and manipulated, brought into a low vibration purposely in order for these lower vibrations to use us like energy batteries for our spiritual energy, also known as our alchemical gold. And during these lifetimes, we've been bred and raised with the morals of a created system that was intentionally created to bring us down in our vibration and to completely make us oblivious to anything that has to do with spiritual nature, anything that has to do with the nature of what we really are as ourselves. We've been bred by this system, our parents were bred by this system, and so on, all the way back to the beginning. And keeping that in mind, we've been building up a lot of bad karma, some of us. So when you do finally start to see through the veil, you might not per se like what you see, but you have to realize that it's yourself. And if you've been made into something bad in your soul, aka a low vibration, which shouldn't be thought of as bad, because if you were deceived into being that, then you know deep down it's not truly your fault and that you just have to recorrect yourself. But you can't ignore it and you can't suppress it, because if you do, you'll eventually self-destruct and shit will go wrong, or you just, at the very least, will not be happy whatsoever your whole life. And you'll continue to be oblivious and live life after life of slavery, because that's truly what we're doing right now. And facing your demons is one of the most important things that you can do, because you realize they're aspects of yourself and they need to grow with you. They need to move on with you. And if there's something bad, then they need to be transmuted into something that's beneficial to yourself. And once you do that, you will undoubtedly start to see the beauty in the whole situation. And I mean literally, once you study the right things, follow the right synchronicities, you realize that you have some issues that you need to work on, but that it's not your fault, and you just start searching into all this stuff, you'll start to unlock extrasensory perception. You'll quite literally start to shift your DNA. That's when you hear people talking about DNA upgrades and spiritual upgrades. And for a long time, early in my path, I thought that people who said that were joking. It's just like you hear them say, "Oh yeah, I got an upgrade," and you're like, "Yeah, okay, maybe you did, maybe you didn't." But no, they're being very seriously. I've witnessed it before my eyes. I've felt it in a true feeling that could not be denied by anybody. And you can very literally manipulate the structure of your DNA. And that's already been being done from the beginning of time in a negative way. Since the beginning, our DNA was engineered so that we're limited mentally as compared to what we can comprehend in the spiritual realm. Our brains are limited to the quantum concepts that we can comprehend. But once you realize that you're a spirit and that there's layers between you and the spirit realm that all meet together and are all part of the same thing, you can start to relay messages. And then eventually a vibration will start to occur that takes place all the way up and down, and you'll get more and more in touch with who you truly are. Because you are God, I am God, we are all God. And we can tap into the infinite, which we all have access to equally. And it's an endless amount of potential and knowledge. And it's a beautiful thing. And once we all tap into that, then there's no chance that these people can continue to keep us in this negative vibration. And it's important to do the research yourself. You can't go, you can go and get the information from somebody else to a certain extent, but you have to do that to a lot of different resources. You have to go around, you have to see You have to see for yourself. You have to do the experience, meditate, and follow the synchronicities. See what your synchronicities bring you to, and you'll eventually develop a set of knowledge based off of merely what you've found out yourself. And then afterwards, you should go and see other people's knowledge. Don't go and look at any main religion or anything like that to begin with, because they're all biased. They're all going to be containing some kind of information that's going to mislead you in some way, because that's what religion most certainly is. It's the cause of most wars, and it's somebody who took a couple aspects of divine nature, so they would know, so their followers would know that they're dealing with something that has truly divine aspects. They take a couple aspects of that to hook their followers, and then they completely mislead them, and they don't know the difference because they were already hooked. They already represent this group or this church with the closest feeling to the divine that they've ever gotten to, and then they surrender themselves to it. And we shouldn't be worshiping anybody other than our own selves, because we are God. So is everyone else, no more than anyone else, and no less. And since we are the creators, quite literally, whenever we give our worship to a group of people who are no more significant than we are in the scheme of things, they're the creator just as we are. So when we give them our aspect of creation, or worship them and dedicate our entire being to them, that's quite literally giving them consent to manipulate us and fool us in any way that they want to. And these low vibrational organizations, whatever you want to call them, these negative forces, they have to tell us what's going on, because they fancy themselves gentlemen, but they have to tell us in a way that we're never going to know. They tell us in symbolism. It's their language. They have the true language. In fact, the English language that we speak is manipulated in so many ways that we fuck ourselves over just in the words that we speak, and we don't even know that much. And they tell us these things, and they put it in the movies and in everything, in the symbolism. And in that way, because they're telling us, they're avoiding karmic repercussions. And that's the same thing with war. They make us kill each other, so they're not receiving the karmic repercussions of killing and spilling innocent blood. So they tell us in the movies, they tell us in everything. Science fiction is science fact. And if you haven't figured that one out, then you haven't figured much out. So if we were ever to completely destroy ourselves as a planet of people, which we've come pretty close to at this point, they would be able to say, well, it's not our fault. We told you, you just didn't see what we were saying. And we do see what they're saying now. And it's so easy to pick out their symbolism. And their symbolism will be their downfall, because it's so obvious. If you have any bit of a logical mind that has any sense whatsoever beyond just a human vessel and a human sheep, then once you see the symbolism that's in everything, every major logo, every fucking song, movie, there's always this symbolism in it. And if you have a reasoning mind, once you connect the dots, you'll be able to see this, and you'll be able to start to subconsciously awaken yourself. Because once you feed your subconscious certain information and you tell it that there's an issue, then you're going to be resonating with your higher self and your subconscious, and there's going to be communication. They both know that something is up, and you tell your higher self, I see this, I see what's happening, and I'm ready to start to awaken myself to what's really going on, and vibrate at a higher vibration or a higher frequency. And learning the symbolism is one of the most important things that we can do. And I mean very literally, the English language is designed intentionally to keep us oblivious to what we're even really portraying in what we're saying. We can say whatever we want, and we can intend what we intend to mean with those words, but what these people know is that at the root of those words and at the root of those sounds, they've put them together in order to vibrationally not benefit us, in order to not even really get the point that we're trying to get across. And we can intend whatever we want with our words, but if we don't know what the words actually mean, or that they actually mean something different than we think they do in general, then we can't make that connection, and we mean whatever that vibration means. And some words, unchangingly, their vibrations and their energy will conjure a certain type of vibration, whether it be good or bad. Just that's mantras and stuff like that, they conjure a certain type of energy. And these vibrations from mantras and whatnot are within the words, and they know that. And they use this language that they've created against us. And since it's the only one that we speak, it's a little hard to get around because we can't just up and learn a new fucking language. But the trick is that we can tell our subconscious and our higher self, look, we know that what we're saying is going to be misinterpreted from what we're actually trying to get across. So you tell your subconscious to like unscrabble the meaning before you receive it and before you send it out. So tell your subconscious, before I say anything and before I hear anything, when I'm taking in information, I want my subconscious to unravel the actual meaning of it and understand what it's actually trying to say. And you can do that just simply by telling your subconscious, but also what you got to do is do things like research where these words actually came from, research how these words are completely opposing each other. Like a good example is the word universe. The word universe in general, it's a complete oxymoron. Uni, to unite, and then verse means to verse or to oppose. It's the universe, and that's what we have our entire existence being called. Another example would be the word lesson. Like we learn lessons. If we're learning, why are we lessening in any way? And that's what the word less literally means. And from at the root of all these words, you'll see their actual meanings. You can see where they're put together to make certain meanings. And deciphering the language and their symbolism is going to be our main key in exposing this, because they've went and used so much of this and gotten so comfortable in their positions that they just throw it right out there in your face, and they know that you're not going to see it, so they don't care. They know that they're confident in the sheep that they've bred. And there is a lot of those people that will never fucking see in this lifetime. And there'll be a steady insult to people who are seeking the true knowledge. I take a lot of hate from people who get called a meth addict, you get called fucking, you watch too many movies, you get called whatever. And it's despicable listening to this happen. It makes you irate and feel bad because you're trying to tell somebody some truth and they've been programmed so deeply that they are showing hatred towards you because you're trying to help them. And that's exactly what these people have done on purpose. They've put us in that state of mind. And lastly, the one thing that sets this information apart from simply information that comes in one ear and goes out the other is that we have to truly, truly know this. You have to do so much research and you have to connect it personally in so many ways that you know deep down that it's absolutely true. Some people believe in tarot cards or whatever, and they'll believe in their values and they'll read them to people and it'll be fun. But if it were to come down to it, like hey, I'm gonna kill you if you don't tell me the right shit through my tarot reading, then they wouldn't have that much faith in it, more than likely. Anyone can say they believe something, but when you put it on the line, it's going to show you whether or not they truly believe it. And that's what I mean. There's a difference between belief and knowing. Belief takes reassurance. You have to keep reassuring yourself that you believe something. It had to be proven to you. Knowing is innate, and you're born with it. It's within you. You know that when you see these fucking pedophiles doing this shit that they're doing, you know deep down that there's something wrong with that. You know that that's not something that needs to be happening, at least not on your fucking watch. And there's no question to whether or not it's the truth. And that's the level of believing that we need to raise all of our spiritual values that we want to solidify within our subconscious too. Like me, I know that I'm God. I know that we're all God. I know that you are. And I know that we're going to make it through it all. So it's going to happen. You have to get yourself to a point to where you have complete confidence, zero doubt that you have control over the situation and that we're going to make it through it all. Doubt is a product of our human brains. In creation, where we come from, there is no thing that is not possible. Anything's possible. It's an endless sea of creation. And doubt is only a product of the human vessel. We only doubt things because humans use reasoning, logic. They think they just brush things off if they're of a spiritual nature. But if you have a strong spiritual nature, which is your second half of yourself, then you will realize, okay, well, there's something up with this. Anytime you doubt yourself or you doubt a value that you have, when you know that it's truly something that's going to benefit you, just remember that there are frequencies that are on this world that are put here by the bad forces that are here to keep us down, to keep us ignorant. And if you start to feel down on yourself, just sit there and take a hold of yourself for a minute and remember that you have control, and that feeling that you're feeling at the moment is not you, and it's not something that you need to even associate with. Take some deep breaths and let it pass, and then move on and continue seeking knowledge of yourself. It's an entire process of bridging ourselves to our higher consciousness. And we can do this best through the etheric plane and through our extrasensory perception. We're showing our vessel that there is something greater. And we know that we've been here before and we've been here again. Except this time around, we can not be ignorant of what we're doing here. And we can actually maybe bring this world to somewhere that's of a positive vibration, that can actually create beautiful things. Somewhere where maybe we can stop using all of our best scientific discoveries to make mass weapons, and instead use it to provide free energy for people and make beautiful things, to get people in touch with the astral realm and the Akash and stuff like that. So until we speak again, follow the synchronicities, keep a level head, stay balanced, don't let the bullshit get you down, and know that things are working on the way up. And I'm going to go over all these things in some more detail in the real near future. Much love.